The air in the small rural town was calm that evening, the kind of stillness that makes every little sound stand out. Dogs barked in the distance. A train rumbled far away. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, leaving behind a darkening. Sky streaked with fading orange. People in town were settling in for the night, some watching TV, some getting ready for bed, some just enjoying the quiet after a long day. It was an ordinary night for almost everyone, but not for Daniel Rivers. Daniel was sitting on his porch, leaning back in an old wooden chair that creaked with every movement. He had a mug of black coffee in his hand, even though it was already late, because sleep wasn't something he depended on much anymore. He was a retired Air Force mechanic, the kind of man who had seen more of the world than he cared to remember. Years of working on fighter jets, cargo planes, and classified machinery had made him sharp and restless. He noticed things, all things, and tonight something caught his attention. It started with a flash of light, not lightning. There were no clouds in the sky. It was quick, bright, and silent. Then came another from a slightly different angle. Daniel set his coffee down and squinted toward the tree line beyond his property. His house was on the edge of town, with nothing but a long stretch of road and thick woods beyond. Out here. Strange lights were usually nothing. Maybe a truck's headlights, maybe some hunters with high-powered flashlights. But these weren't headlights, and they weren't flashlights. Daniel stood up, his knees aching from old injuries, and walked to the edge of his yard. Another flash came, this one lasting longer. It wasn't a steady beam, it flickered, pulsing, faintly in the dark. And then it moved, not like anything Daniel had ever seen. Too smooth to be a helicopter, too fast to be a drone. It's too silent to be any aircraft he knew. He muttered to himself, "That's not normal." Most people would have shrugged it off, maybe gone inside and locked the door. But Daniel had never been most people. Curiosity and a lifetime of dealing with strange situations pushed him toward his old pickup truck, grabbed a flashlight, tossed it on the passenger seat, and started the engine. The rumble of the truck broke the silence as he turned onto the narrow road that led toward the woods. The lights were still visible ahead, weaving between the trees. It was hard to judge the distance. Sometimes they seemed close, other times far away. Daniel followed them, taking the back roads he knew by heart. The deeper he went, the darker it got. The moon was only a thin sliver in the sky, barely offering any light. The smell of pine and damp earth seeped in through the cracked window. After about 15 minutes, Daniel reached a clearing he hadn't visited in years. It was an old logging site, now overgrown with grass and weeds. That's when he saw it. At first, his brain refused to process the image. In the center of the clearing sat something metallic, shaped like a teardrop lying on its side, about the size of a small bus. It shimmered faintly, as if it was covered in liquid light. The air around it seemed to bend, like heat rising from asphalt. Daniel's heart thumped hard in his chest. He had worked around experimental aircraft before, but this was something else entirely. He turned off his truck's headlights, letting the engine idle quietly. Part of him wanted to stay hidden, but another part told him to get closer. Years of training whispered in his mind, "Observe first. Move carefully." Daniel slipped out of the truck and crouched low, moving through the tall grass. As he drew closer, he noticed movement near the base of the craft. At first, he thought it was some kind of maintenance crew in strange suits. But then he saw small figures huddled together, his breath caught in his throat. They were children, human children. There were maybe 6 or 7 of them, sitting in a tight group, their faces pale and frightened. Some clung to each other. One boy had tears streaking down his cheeks. They didn't make a sound, but their eyes darted around. Wide with fear, Daniel's mind raced. Why are they here? How did they get here? Who brought them? His gut told him something was very wrong. He reached for his phone to call the sheriff, but then froze when another figure appeared. This one was tall, much taller than any man Daniel had ever met, at least 7 feet, maybe more. Its limbs were long and slender, its skin a smooth grayish tone that caught the moonlight. It wore something like a loose flowing suit that seemed to move on its own, shifting colors slightly as it walked. The creature stepped slowly toward the children, hands raised in what looked like a calming gesture. It wasn't grabbing them, wasn't forcing them anywhere. In fact, Daniel realized with surprise it looked nervous. Its head kept turning, scanning the trees, as if expecting something to jump out. Daniel's pulse hammered in his ears. His instincts screamed to act, but he didn't know if the alien was the threat or if something else was coming. He decided to wait just a little longer. Then, to his shock, the alien turned its gaze directly toward him. Daniel froze, thinking it might attack, but instead the creature did something completely unexpected. It spoke. Its voice was strange, like a whisper layered with a metallic echo, but the words were clear enough. "You captured human children?" Daniel blinked, not sure he'd heard right. The alien took a step closer. It's large, black. Eyes wide, its voice rose slightly, the echo sharper this time. "Are you insane?" Daniel realized something important in that moment. The alien wasn't accusing him. It was speaking in general, as if it had just stumbled upon this situation itself. Its tone wasn't angry, it was terrified. The alien's hands trembled slightly as it glanced back at the children, then toward the dark forest. When it spoke again, its words were rushed, urgent. "Let them go, before it comes." Daniel's confusion deepened. Before what comes? Who was it? When if the alien wasn't the one who took the kids, then who did? A gust of wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it a strange hum, low, deep, and unnatural. Daniel felt it in his bones more than in his ears. The children stiffened. The alien's eyes went wide with fear. Daniel's mind was a storm of questions, but one thing was clear. Something was happening here that was far bigger than him, far bigger than this little town. And whether he liked it or not, he was now in the middle of it. He took a slow step forward, trying to keep his voice calm. "Who are you? What's going on here?" The alien looked at him for a long moment, its chest rising and falling rapidly. Finally, it spoke just for words, its voice almost shaking. "We don't have time." And in that instant, Daniel knew this night was about to change his life forever. Daniel's heart was beating so hard it felt like it might crack his ribs. The clearing was cold and silent except for that faint hum in the distance that made the hair on his arms stand up. The alien stood between him and the frightened children. Its tall frame tense, its large black eyes darting back and forth like it expected danger to jump out of the shadows at any moment. Daniel took a cautious step closer. "I don't know who you are," he said slowly, "but I can tell you're not here to hurt them. What's going on?" The alien shook its head quickly, the motion almost human in how urgent it was. Its voice came out in that strange, layered tone, hurried and trembling. "You captured human children? You insane? Let them go before it comes." Daniel frowned. "Didn't capture anyone. I just found you here." For a second, the alien stared at him, as if trying to judge whether he was telling the truth. Then its gaze softened, just slightly, and it seemed to relax enough to speak without shaking so much. "I am not here to harm them. I am here to save them." The words hung in the air like smoke, hard to believe but impossible to ignore. Daniel glanced at the group of kids. They were still huddled together, watching every movement between him and the alien, their faces pale with fear and confusion. None of them spoke, but their eyes told him they were desperate for help. He turned back to the alien. "Save them from what?" The alien hesitated, its jaw tightening like it was deciding how much to tell him. Finally, it took a slow step closer and lowered its voice. "For my own kind." Daniel's brow furrowed. "Your own kind? You mean there are more of you?" "Yes," the alien said, the words sounding heavy with shame. "Not all are like me. There is a faction. They come to your world, they take children. For experiments, for study, for reasons I will not speak aloud in front of them." I glanced at the kids briefly before continuing. "I could not watch any longer. I left them. I stole this craft. I took the children back from their ship." Daniel's mind reeled. "You're saying someone something from space has been abducting human kids." The alien nodded once, sharply. "For many years. Your people think they are lost, taken by other humans, killed, but some are taken to the stars. Most never return." Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. He had heard strange rumors in his military days, whispers among pilots about UFO sightings and vanishing civilians. But to hear it from an alien's own mouth, it made his stomach twist. "All right," Daniel said slowly. "If you took them from the others, why are you still here? Why not take them? I don't know. Wherever you came from." The alien's gaze darkened. "Because the hunters follow. They will track the children's life signatures. My craft is damaged from escape. I landed here to repair. But there is no time." The hum in the distance pulsed again, slightly louder. Daniel realized with a sinking feeling that it wasn't just his imagination. Something was out there. Something was coming closer. The alien turned to him suddenly. "You must help me hide." Them, Daniel stared at it, his mind spinning. Hide them? Where? Somewhere with shielding, metal, underground. A place their scanners cannot see. Daniel thought fast. The town didn't have anything like that. Except maybe. Yes. The old Cold War bunker in the state forest about 20 miles out. It had been abandoned for decades, but the thick concrete walls and rusting steel doors were still there. If they were lucky, it might be enough to block whatever life signature tracking these hunters used. "I know a place," Daniel said. His voice firm now, "but we'll have to move fast." The alien nodded, relief flickering in its eyes. "Good. But understand, if they find us, they will not speak. They will kill. You must be ready." Daniel had no weapons besides the hunting rifle in his truck, and he doubted it would do much against whatever was chasing them. Still, he wasn't about to leave these kids to be taken. He had seen enough war, enough fear in the eyes of the innocent, to know he couldn't walk away. "All right," he said. "Let's get them in my truck." The alien turned to the children and knelt, speaking in a softer tone. "You are safe now. Follow us." Its voice was calmer, almost gentle. The kids hesitated, but when Daniel waved them over, they slowly stood and began shuffling toward the truck. The oldest, a girl of maybe 12, kept her arms wrapped protectively around a younger boy's shoulders. Daniel opened the truck's back door and helped them climb in. They were quiet, too quiet for children, and that alone told him they had been through something terrible. Wanted to ask them questions. But now wasn't the time. The alien moved toward the front passenger side, but paused, looking back at the craft. "I must destroy it." "What?" Daniel said. "If they find it, they will know I was here. They will know where we go. Wait here." Before Daniel could protest, the alien strode back to the strange, shimmering ship. It touched the side in a precise pattern, and the entire surface rippled like water. A low vibration built up until the ship began to glow from within. Then, without warning, it collapsed in on itself, shrinking, folding, disappearing until nothing was left but a faint scorch mark on the grass. Daniel stared. That's one way to ditch a vehicle. The alien returned, its long stride. Carrying it back to the truck, we go. They climbed in, and Daniel started the engine. As he turned the truck around, he glanced at the alien. "Do you have a name?" The alien hesitated, then said, "Lorraine." "Right, Lorraine, hang on." The road back to the forest was narrow and twisting, but Daniel drove it fast, the tires crunching over gravel and dirt. Every so often, he checked the rear-view mirror. At first, there was nothing but darkness, but then, faint shapes. Black, sharp-edged, moving low over the trees. They weren't planes, weren't helicopters. They were closing in. Lauren saw them too. "They are here." Daniel pressed harder on the gas. "We'll make it." The hum grew louder, more insistent, like a swarm of massive insects. The kids in the back squeezed together tighter, some covering their ears. They passed the last farmhouse. Before the road plunged into forest, Daniel knew that once they got under the thick tree cover, they might gain a little time. The hunters would have a harder time tracking them visually. But the real hope was the bunker. If they could get inside before those things caught up, maybe they had a chance. As the truck bounced over potholes, Loren spoke quickly. "Listen to me, Daniel Rivers. If they catch us, you must not let them take you, or the children. They will not kill you. They will use you." Daniel gripped the wheel tighter. not planning on letting that happen. Minutes passed in tense silence, broken only by the rumble of the engine and the faint predatory hum behind them. The forest grew thicker, the shadows deeper. Daniel took a sharp turn onto an old, overgrown side road, the kind most people wouldn't even notice was there. Branches scraped against the truck as they plunged deeper into the woods. Finally, the outline of the bunker came into view, a squat, concrete structure half buried in the earth, its rusted steel doors still hanging in place. Daniel skidded too. A stop, jumped out, and ran to the doors. The hinges screamed in protest as he pulled them open. The smell of damp metal and old dust hit him immediately. Inside, he called to the kids. They scrambled out of the truck and into the darkness. Of the bunker, Lorene followed, but stopped to look at the sky one last time. "They are close," it whispered. Daniel didn't need telling twice. He slammed the doors shut and dropped the heavy locking bar into place. Inside, the bunker was pitch black except for the beam of his flashlight. The walls were thick, lined with rust and cobwebs. It wasn't comfortable, but it was shelter and, hopefully, invisible to whatever was hunting them. As the hum outside grew fainter, Daniel realized his hands were shaking, not from fear for himself, but from the weight of what he had just learned. There were alien hunters abducting human children, and the only thing standing between them and their next victims was him and one alien who had risked everything to save them. The air inside the bunker was heavy and damp, carrying the smell of rust and old stone. Daniel's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, bouncing off the thick concrete walls and catching the pale, anxious faces of the children. They sat together on the cold floor, their knees pulled close, eyes darting between him and the tall alien beside him. Lauren stood near the door, its head tilted slightly, as if listening to something Daniel couldn't hear. The alien's long fingers rested against the metal wall, almost like it could feel vibrations through it. Daniel took a slow breath, trying to steady himself. He didn't like being trapped, and now, with kids' lives on the line, the weight of responsibility pressed hard on his chest. "They're not here yet," Lauren said suddenly, its voice low but firm. "But they are moving fast. They will search. They will not give up." Daniel crouched near the kids. "All right, everyone. You're safe in here for now. I know you're scared, but we're going to keep you safe, okay?" Most of them nodded weakly. One boy, maybe 8 years old, whispered, "Who are they? The ones chasing us?" Daniel glanced at Lauren. The alien's black eyes softened. "Bad people from my world. They take children from yours. I took you back from them." The boy didn't respond, but his lips pressed together like he understood more than he wanted to. Daniel straightened and moved toward Lorene. "So what's the plan?" "We just sit here and hope they pass us by." "No," Lauren said, shaking its head. "They will scan the area. The bunker hides the life signs, but they may still sense movement, heat, or sound. If they find this place, they will try to force." "The doors?" Daniel glanced at the massive steel doors and thick walls. "You think they can get through? They have weapons that cut metal like paper," Lauren said flatly. Daniel's stomach tightened. "So we have to make sure they never find it." The alien tilted its head. "You know this area. Is there something nearby, something to lead them away?" Daniel thought quickly. A few miles to the north was an old radio tower, abandoned for years, but still standing. The structure had a big steel platform and generators inside. If Lorene could make it emit the same kind of signal the kids gave off, maybe the hunters would go there instead. He explained the idea to Lauren, and the alien's expression shifted into something like cautious approval. "It could work, but one of us must go. The other must stay to protect the children." Daniel didn't even hesitate. "I'll go. You stay here. You're the one they're after. If they catch you, the kids are done for." But Lauren shook its head. "They want the children, not me. I am already a traitor to them. If you go alone, you will not survive. I can move faster. I can hide better in the dark." Daniel knew the alien was right. "Fine, but you'll need something to carry the signal." "I can make one from your truck's radio," Lorene said. Already moving toward the door, Daniel followed and cracked the door just enough for them to slip outside. The forest was still except for the faint hum somewhere far off. The alien moved like a shadow, crossing to the truck without a sound. Daniel kept watch, scanning the tree line for movement. In less than 2 minutes, Lauren returned with a small, palm-sized device glowing faintly blue. It will mimic the children's biosignature for 1 hour. I will take it far from here, then destroy it. Daniel nodded. Be careful. Lauren's black eyes fixed on his for a moment. Not open. The door is for anyone, unless you hear this sound. It made a strange, warbling whistle that Daniel tried to memorize. Without another word, Loren vanished into the forest, moving with uncanny speed and silence. Daniel shut the heavy doors again and slid the locking bar into place. Inside, the children looked up at him, hope and fear mixing in their faces. Where did it go? The oldest girl asked. To make sure the bad ones don't find us, Daniel said simply. Minutes turned into an hour. Daniel paced slowly, listening hard for any noise outside. The bunker was built to be quiet, but he could still feel the faint hum through the ground now and then, like some enormous engine passing overhead. The kids whispered among themselves, their voices barely audible. Then, without warning, there was a new sound, a soft metallic ping on the door. Daniel froze. The kids looked at him, eyes wide. Another ping. Then a faint scrape, like claws on metal. Daniel motioned for them to stay quiet and crept toward the door. The sound came again, a slow, deliberate drag of something along the steel. He pressed his ear to the cold surface, straining to hear. Then, clear as day, a voice, deep, harsh, and not human, spoke from outside. The words were guttural, but Daniel didn't need to understand them to know they were bad news. The scrape came again, followed by a sudden heavy thunk, as if something large had landed right outside. Daniel backed away, keeping himself between the door and the kids. A sharp hiss filled the air. The metal began to glow faintly orange near the top hinge. His stomach dropped. They were trying to cut through. Everyone to the back. Daniel whispered urgently. The kids scrambled into the farthest corner. He scanned the room for anything useful. There were old metal shelves, broken wooden crates, and a rusted toolbox. He grabbed a length of steel pipe and tightened his grip. He didn't know if it would help, but it was better than nothing. The hiss grew louder, the orange glow spreading. The metal was softening. Then suddenly it stopped. Silence. Daniel's breath caught, either though they had given up, or they were trying something else. A few long seconds later, he heard movement in the trees outside, quick, sharp, and then fading away. It wasn't the whistle Lauren had promised. Daniel kept his guard up, not trusting the quiet. 10 more. Minutes passed before a sound came that made his chest loosen. The strange, warbling whistle Lauren had shown him. Daniel rushed to the door, cracked it open just enough to see outside. Lauren stood there, breathing hard, its long limbs tense. They are gone for now, it said. The decoy worked, but they will come back when they realize the signal is false. Daniel let it in quickly and locked the door again.
How much
time do we have? An hour, maybe 2. Enough to prepare? Daniel didn't like the sound of that. Prepare for what? Loren's eyes hardened. If they come back, they will search this place thoroughly. We must make them believe we are not here or be ready to fight. Daniel looked at the children, huddled together, watching them with wide, fearful eyes. His jaw tightened. Then, we make sure they never get in. And with that, the two of them began turning the old bunker into a trap because the hunters would be back. And when they came, there would be no running. The forest was silent in a way that made Daniel's skin crawl. The wind had died down, leaving only the faint rustle of leaves as a reminder that anything could be lurking just beyond the shadows. Inside the bunker, the children huddled together, trembling while Daniel and Lauren moved quietly to prepare for what they knew was coming. Lauren's long, slender fingers touched the walls, floor, and steel doors as if it could sense every vibration, every movement outside. Its black eyes were sharp, scanning every corner of the dimly lit room. They're coming back. Loren whispered, its voice tight with tension. They will not stop until they find the children. Daniel tightened his jaw and nodded. We fight. He started organizing whatever they could use. Rusted metal pipes, broken crates, old wooden planks, anything that could serve as a barrier or a weapon. Lorene walked among the children, speaking softly. Stay together. Do not make noise. Trust me, and you will be safe. The kids nodded, though their faces were pale with fear. Even the oldest girl, who had been trying to stay brave, bit her lip and clutched the younger boy to her chest. Daniel wanted to comfort them, but he knew it wasn't the time. Outside, the danger was real and approaching. Hours had passed since Lauren had gone to set the decoy signal. Daniel checked his watch. Dusk was falling. The hunters would be arriving soon, and Daniel's mind raced with strategies. He was used to planning in high-stress situations, but this was unlike anything he had ever faced. These were not human soldiers. They were something else, something faster, stronger. Then came the first sign, a low hum, different from the decoy signal, vibrating through the ground. Daniel froze, listening. It wasn't far. He could feel the vibrations through his boots. Lorene's eyes narrowed. They are close, it said. The children shrank back. Daniel crouched beside them, whispering, Stay calm. Don't move. Nothing can hurt you if you stay quiet. Outside, the hum grew louder, accompanied by a faint whistling that sounded mechanical and alive at the same time. Then a shadow appeared. Near the edge of the forest, moving faster than any human could, was tall, almost towering, with long armored limbs that glinted faintly under the last rays of sunlight. Its movements were precise, calculating, and terrifying. Daniel's heart pounded. The hunters had arrived. They will try the doors first, Loren said. We cannot let them in. Daniel nodded. Then we hold them off, whatever it takes. The first strike came without warning. A beam of green light sliced across the trees outside, narrowly missing the bunker door. Daniel grabbed a rusted metal pipe and slammed it against the wall for support, feeling the vibration in his hands. The children gasped, but Loren put a hand on the oldest girl's shoulder, steadying her. They cannot hurt you while I am here, it said. Daniel took a deep breath, realizing the alien was telling the truth. Loren moved with incredible speed, darting to the door and placing small, glowing devices along the hinges and locks. The devices emitted a faint pulse that made the green energy beam sizzle and bounce harmlessly off the door. Good, Daniel, muttered. Now we prepare for the next wave. The hunters didn't give them a chance to relax. Another beam of light struck the outer wall, shattering concrete chunks and sending dust into the air. Daniel ducked behind a crate, holding the children close. He had to think fast. Loren, he whispered, we need a trap, something to slow them down. The alien's eyes flickered with focus. I can make them lose balance, but you must. Draw their attention. I will act when they are near. Daniel nodded, knowing it was risky but necessary. He grabbed a torch from a corner and lit it, waving it near the doorway. The hunters' attention shifted immediately, their armored forms moving toward the light. One of them lifted its arm, firing a beam that cut through the wall. But Loren was already in motion. It leaped in front of the beam, moving faster than Daniel could follow. The alien's limbs extended, almost like liquid, and it struck the first hunter with a precise blow. The hunter stumbled, thrown off balance by the sheer force. Sparks flew as its weapon hit the ground. Daniel realized this was their chance. He swung a metal pipe at the next hunter as it tried to enter. The pipe connected, with a metallic clang, sending it reeling back. The children screamed, but Loren covered their ears with a wave of its hand. The alien's movements were hypnotic, almost impossible to track, limbs twisting and striking in ways Daniel had never seen before. More hunters advanced, and Daniel realized they had to buy time. He grabbed some crates and stacked them near the doorway, creating a barricade. Loren added small devices to the barricade, pulsing faintly and sending waves of energy that disrupted the hunters' balance whenever they stepped too close. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The hunters tested every corner, probing with beams, trying to find a weakness. Daniel could hear the heavy crunch of their footsteps and the hum of their weapons. Every time they struck the door, the bunker shook, sending dust and small debris into the air. The children clung to each other, their fear palpable, but Lauren never left their side. It moved among them, shielding them, whispering words of comfort in its strange melodic voice. Daniel realized the alien's presence was as much a shield for their minds as for their bodies. Suddenly, one hunter found a small opening near the corner of the door. A green beam sliced through, cutting a narrow channel into the concrete. Daniel's heart raced, grabbed a broken metal rod and jammed it into the slit, trying to block the beam. Sparks flew as the energy hit the rod, sizzling and leaving small burn marks. Children screamed, but Daniel shouted, "Stay down, stay down!" Lauren didn't waste a second, darted to the beam, its long fingers twisting and manipulating the energy with its own alien devices. The beam flickered, then went out. Silence fell for a brief, tense moment. Daniel exhaled slowly, feeling the tiniest relief, but he knew it wouldn't last. The hunters were persistent, intelligent, and relentless. "They will come again," Lauren said quietly. "We must be ready." Daniel nodded. "Then we make this bunker our fortress. We hold them off no matter what." He checked on the kids. "You're okay? No one hurt?" They nodded weakly, some shivering, others clinging to each other. Daniel realized they were brave in their own way, facing something unimaginable and surviving. The alien moved back toward the door, placing more devices, adjusting their energy pulses. Sparks danced across the metal surface, and for a moment, Daniel thought the hunters might break through, but they didn't. Lorraine's traps worked perfectly, slowing every advance, confusing every move. Hours turned into night, and the forest outside grew darker. The only sounds were the distant hum of engines and the occasional rustle of leaves. Daniel and Lauren took shifts keeping watch, moving silently through the bunker, making sure the children stayed safe. Finally, near the middle of the night, the hunters retreated. Daniel and Lauren listened carefully, hearing their heavy, armored forms fade into the darkness. The forest returned to an uneasy calm, the air still thick with tension. Daniel collapsed against the wall, exhausted, his muscles aching. Lorraine knelt beside the children, whispering softly, "They are gone for now, but they will return. We must rest, gather strength. Tomorrow, we continue." Daniel looked at the kids' tired faces, at the alien who had risked everything to save them, and realized something important. This night was only the beginning. The hunters would come back, stronger, smarter, and deadlier. But they had survived. Once, together, that meant they could survive again. And as Daniel lay on the cold concrete floor, keeping a watchful eye on the shadows outside, he felt a small spark of hope. They weren't out of danger, not by far. But for the first time, he believed they might just make it. The night in the forest was quiet, almost too quiet, and Daniel's nerves were stretched thin. Inside the bunker, the children huddled together, their exhaustion evident on their pale faces. But they were still alert, aware that danger could return at any moment. Loren, the tall alien with long, slender limbs, moved among them, its black eyes scanning every shadow, every movement. Daniel felt a mix of awe and fear as he watched the alien protect the children. Every instinct he had learned in the military told him that if the hunters returned, it would be a fight for survival. Lauren spoke softly to the children, "Do not be afraid. I will not let them touch you. Trust me, and you will be safe." Kids nodded quietly, still clutching each other tightly. Daniel could see their fear, but also a flicker of trust in Lauren. They had seen this alien risk everything for them, and that mattered more than any words he could say. Daniel took a deep breath and turned to Lauren. "How long do we have before they come back?" Lorraine's expression darkened. "Not long. They will discover the decoy signal eventually, and when they do, they will know we are here. It could be in hours, it could be tomorrow, but they will return stronger, smarter, and more dangerous." Daniel nodded grimly. "Then we can't just wait here. We need a plan." The alien tilted its head slightly, considering. "There is one last option," Lauren said, its voice low. "A device, hidden in my ship. It can open a portal, one way, to a safe place, a colony far from them. The children can go there. They will be safe. But only if we act quickly. I cannot hold them here forever, and you must choose. You can stay, or you can go with them. Daniel's heart pounded. The idea of sending the children away to an alien colony sounded impossible, but he knew it was the only way to save them. We have to do it. There's no other choice. Lauren moved quickly, leaving the bunker and returning moments later. With a small, glowing device about the size of a lunchbox, the device pulsed softly, filling the room with a faint blue light. This will open the portal, the alien said. Once the children pass through, it will close behind them. One chance, no mistakes. Daniel knelt by the children, explaining in gentle, calm words what was about to happen. This is going to take you somewhere safe. You'll be okay. Promise Lauren will take care of you, and this device will get you there. The children looked at each other nervously. Some were still too young to fully understand, but they trusted Daniel, and they trusted Lauren. Slowly, they began moving toward the device, guided by the alien's soft voice, as the last child stepped. Forward, Daniel felt a heavy weight in his chest. He wanted to go with them, but he also knew the hunters were still out there. His priority was to keep them safe. Lauren looked at him, its expression unreadable but firm. Go with them, Daniel, said quietly. Make sure they get through safely. The alien nodded, activating the device. A swirling blue portal opened, glowing and humming with energy. The children gasped as they saw the portal, some afraid of stepping into the unknown, some excited. At the idea of safety, Daniel guided them forward, one by one. It's okay, he whispered. Step through. You'll be safe. The oldest girl went first, holding the hand of the younger boy. Lauren extended its long arm to guide each child, ensuring they entered the portal safely. Daniel stayed close, making sure no one stumbled or got scared. One by one, the children disappeared into the glowing swirl, leaving only the faint hum of the device behind. Finally, only the youngest boy remained. He looked at Daniel with wide, frightened eyes. Will I see you again? He asked softly. Daniel knelt down, placing a hand on his shoulder. You'll be safe now. That's what matters. Lauren will keep you safe. One day, maybe, we'll meet again. The boy nodded slowly, trusting Daniel's words, and stepped through the portal. The blue light swallowed him completely, and the hum of the device slowed, then stopped. The portal collapsed, leaving the bunker in silence. Daniel exhaled, relief, and exhaustion washing over him. He sank against the wall, running a hand through his hair. Lauren stood nearby, its long body tense. Still alert to any movement outside. They are safe, Daniel said, almost to himself. All of them. Lauren's black eyes met his. Yes, they are safe now, but you are still here.
They will...
Come again. You must leave or hide or prepare. The hunters will not stop searching. Daniel nodded, knowing the alien was right. The hunters were relentless, and the forest was no longer safe. But for now, the children were alive, and that was all that mattered. Ours passed in silence. Daniel and Lauren listened to the forest, making sure no one was approaching. The night was still, almost peaceful after the chaos of the attack. Realized how much he had relied on Lauren. How much trust had grown between them in such a short time. You did well, Daniel said quietly. I don't know how I would have done this without you. Lauren's eyes softened slightly, a rare gesture of acknowledgement. We did it together. But you must understand, my people will not forgive me. They will hunt again. You are not safe here. Daniel nodded. He knew this truth, but it didn't matter at the moment. The children were safe. They had survived the night. That was the victory that mattered most. The next morning, Daniel left the bunker quietly. He wanted to make sure no trace of their presence remained. The forest was calm, the air fresh, the sun rising over the horizon. It felt almost like a normal day, but Daniel knew it wasn't. Nothing would ever be normal again after what he had seen. He walked slowly to his truck, thinking about the children, about Lauren, and about the hunters still out there in the universe. One thing was certain: humanity was small and fragile. But sometimes courage and trust, even between the most unlikely allies, could make all the difference. Daniel didn't know where the children had gone exactly, or if he would ever see them again, but he held on to one truth: they had survived. Lorin had risked everything, and somehow they had all made it through the night alive. As he drove back toward the town, Daniel glanced at the sky. Somewhere out there, far beyond Earth, the hunters would continue searching, but the children would be safe. And that thought gave him a strange sense of peace, knowing that sometimes, even in the darkest moments, bravery and compassion could change everything. He realized that this experience had changed him too. He had faced the unimaginable, protected the innocent, and witnessed something that few humans could even comprehend. And now he carried that memory with him, a story he would never forget, of an alien who risked its life for humanity, and of children who had been given a second chance at life because someone had the courage to act when it mattered most. Daniel knew that one day the truth might come out. People might call him crazy. They might never believe what had happened. But in his heart, he knew what he had seen. He'd been part of something extraordinary, something that reminded him that hope could exist even in the most terrifying situations, and that heroes could come in the most unexpected forms, even from another world. And with that thought, Daniel drove on, the forest behind him silent, the world ahead uncertain. But for now, the children were alive, and that was all. That truly mattered.